All right, thank you for joining us for the first meeting of the Rutland Region's workshop on the West Central Vermont Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. This evening, we'll be going over exactly what is West Central Vermont, as well as what is a CEDS. Once we go through that information, we'll be delving into some of the initial data that's come from this work, followed by some breakout groups. And these breakout groups are going to allow us for sector or topic specific discussion to help flesh out a SOAR, a strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results analysis specific to the Rutland region, which will then feed into this larger comprehensive economic development strategy. So what is West Central Vermont? West Central Vermont is what we are calling the 4 subregions of Addison County, except for Granville and Hancock, Chittenden County, Central Vermont, made up of Washington County plus Orange, Washington and Williamstown in Orange County, and Rutland County, except for Pittsfield. The work is being undertaken by the 4 regional planning commissions and 4 regional development corporations for the regions, and is encompassing of 90 municipalities. So who is the West Central Vermont CEDS Strategy Committee? Again, they are the same groups just listed that are working on the CEDS and that are supporting the development of the West Central Vermont region, including ACCD, the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. They're a supporting agency and doing amazing work providing coronavirus pandemic-specific data for the 4 regions. So, what is a CEDS? A comprehensive economic development strategy is a strategy-driven plan for regional economic development, focusing on economic development and economic resilience. It is a program funded and this is through a program funded and run by the US EDA, Economic Development Administration, and has specific requirements. A CEDS needs to be inclusive of an economic profile and summary, a SWOT analysis, and in this case, also a SOAR analysis, a strategic direction or action plan, evaluation framework and indicators, and then it should also address, as mentioned before, economic resilience. The National Association of Counties describes economic resilience as a community's ability to foresee, adapt to, and leverage changing conditions to their advantage. Sorry for the background noise. Similarly, the US EDA Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy content guidelines note that resilience and resiliency has 3 primary attributes: the ability to recover quickly from a shock or negative stimulus, the ability to withstand a shock, and the ability to avoid the shock altogether. Why are we taking this on right now? And also, why the 4 regions? These 4 regions have shared goals. They're also all similar: concentrated development, rural countryside, meaning inclusive of concentrated downtowns and village centers, while maintaining and supporting rural areas surrounding that, a diversified economic base, and the pursuit of being resilient. Shared challenges include, as seen across Vermont overall, an aging workforce, infrastructure demands and needs specific to water, wastewater, stormwater, and housing, affordable housing, but also quality of housing as housing stock is aging. Also shared economic strengths, that being healthcare specific, tourism, and working lands. Okay, so we're collaborating and coordinating, an emphasis on the coordination there, because we have each regional plan. So this will form each region's regional plan. support cross-sector coordination and collaboration, and hopefully, potentially, develop an economic development district. This also opens us up to additional EDA funding opportunities. And these funding opportunities include planning and technical assistance, public works and economic adjustment assistance for planning or construction, and projects that lead to the creation and retention of jobs, and increased private investment, advance innovation, enhance manufacturing capacities, provide workforce development opportunities, and grow ecosystems that attract foreign direct investment. Also, Build to Scale program is another EDA funding opportunity, which has a focus of building regional economies through scalable startups. There's also the American Rescue Plan Act. Specifics are still being developed, but likely this will focus on construction of infrastructure that supports economic development, entrepreneurial programs and facilities, projects for communities to address the pandemic and related economic losses in the tourism sector, preparation of economic development, recovery, and resilience plans, disaster resilience planning, and related public and private infrastructure. Some example projects that have stemmed from the development of having a CEDS and thus access to additional funding opportunities include the Yellow Barn Accelerator in Hardwick, Vermont, which sought to restore the historic Yellow Barn facility and construct a new building for local ag and forest industries. Due North Co-working in Lyndonville. Funds here were used for technical assistance to hire a full-time entrepreneur in residence and part-time facilities coordinator. Fairfax water and wastewater expansion in Fairfax. And this supported municipal water and wastewater extension and access in order to create 189 new jobs for Runamuck Maple. And the Villamont Trail and Huts in Chittenden, Rochester, and Hancock for the construction of 10 miles of non-motorized trails and ADA accessible backcountry huts. Okay. So these three of the 4 regions do not have a CEDS. That said, Chittenden County does have a CEDS. But coming in all this together brings us back to the previous slide for the reasons of for collaborating and coordinating. So how will we write this CEDS? The work's already started. So it's been heavy on research and preparation, which started this past winter through the spring and has led us to this public outreach. And this is the first of 2 rounds, each probably having at least 2 meetings, maybe more, to solicit your feedback, share what research we're finding, and help make this as a community-fed CEDS or economic development strategy as possible. So this initial outreach is now through summer, fall of 2021. I'll be working on a draft CEDS, and then we'll be coming to you spring 2022 with a draft CEDS and getting your feedback there as well. We are hoping and plan on having a final CEDS come summer 2022. We're doing outreach, so technical advisors or key employers and economic development related organizations will be seeking to directly connect with you, the communities in each of these regions, and also to directly engage with underrepresented portions of the business community. So we really do want to connect with as many stakeholders and community members as possible. And again, the funding through this is through the US EDA Planning and Technical Assistance Grant. So West Central Vermont. As mentioned before, this region that we're calling West Central Vermont has similar strengths, and that being education and healthcare, transportation, trade, utilities, and others as you see listed on the slide. This region has 50.8% of state population, 59.9% of the state GDP, so it is robust. It is statistically better educated with lower poverty rates than the US population. Education, healthcare, trade, transportation, and utilities are the leading employment sectors in the West Central Vermont region. Leisure and hospitality is in the top 5 for each of the subregions, but less reliant on this particular area, leisure and hospitality, than the rest of the state. However, there's still room for improvement. 30% of families in the West Central Vermont region are at or below a livable wage. There is an aging workforce. All of the opportunity zones or concentrated areas of poverty, childcare access issues across the board, and access to affordable housing. Okay, and as mentioned, ACCD is one of the partners on this project and has been providing amazing research and info on the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic. So, negative impacts, there's lost revenue, as many know. Unemployment peaked around 15% and is now back to around 3%. Gasoline sales were down almost $300 million. Restaurant purchases were down almost $500 million. Brick and mortar retail was down. Travel and recreation plummeted. That said, though, while there's many known negative impacts, some of which you've probably felt personally, there have been positive economic impacts as well. Grocery sales went up $100 million. Vehicle sales were up $100 million. Residential building and renovation also shot up. Real estate is up, plus the presence of federal stimulus dollars. In summary, household purchases went down, contributing to the decline of GDP, but also allowed for more available household income. People were spending elsewhere. Distribution of impacts and how they vary is also important, so it depends on which areas in the economy. Some business sectors still remain very affected, and low-income households that do not participate in the regular economy are still struggling. Okay, at this point, we're going to be breaking out into 6 different subgroups to discuss and work on SOAR analysis, or strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. And the subgroups you see listed on this slide, you'll be designated into to discuss strengths, so what is working well, specific to the Rutland region and in your subtopic area. For example, if you are in infrastructure, what is working well and what are you proud of in terms of infrastructure in the Rutland region, as well as assets, capabilities, and greatest accomplishments. We'll also be discussing opportunities. So again, using infrastructure if you end up in that subgroup. What are the external circumstances or challenges, and how can we reframe them in a way that creates action in terms of infrastructure in the Rutland region? Okay, what does the region need to move forward in terms of infrastructure in the Rutland region? Aspirations, what are the vision, or what is your vision, excuse me, for the region's future? And again, this is specific to your subgroup, which might be infrastructure and the Rutland region. What initiatives would support this vision? And results. How will we know when we get there? How are we succeeding? So what will we use in terms of indicators to measure progress towards achieving goals around, again, the example of infrastructure in the Rutland region? It could also be, you might be in the land use group or workforce and education, but all within the context of the Rutland region. So we're going to break out into groups. You'll have about 27 minutes from the looks of it. We will then rejoin. If there's time for a quick rehash, we shall, and we will go over this final slide when we come back together.
All right. So, Rex, can you hear us okay? All right, we're
It
gonna.
looks like he's muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Rex. Just to let you know if you want to turn that off and hop in. So I guess we can just like kind of jump right into it. Have either of you done a SOAR before?
I did one once at a think tank in college.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. So, similar to a SWOT, it's really just a way to get our kind of ideas out there and on paper. So, the SOAR is obviously just like we discussed: strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. So we're going to explore those for the Rutland region, identify how these can sort of address the issues of economic resilience and development, and then kind of share out with the group after what we came up with. So infrastructure obviously is a big one, right? There's plenty. Oh, I see you got you unmuted, Rex. Welcome.
Yeah, I did manage. I was not in the other meeting. It still says someone will let me in soon, so I'm amazed I'm in this breakout room. I'm glad I'm with you, but
yeah, well,
So
way to be adaptable, because Microsoft Teams has been throwing you a curveball tonight. So thanks for sticking with it. So I know Nikki, Rex, you said you were with the group. What was that exactly?
Let's Grow Kids.
Let's Grow Kids. Awesome.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about Let's Grow Kids. Great group.
Yes.
Awesome.
Some of our numbers were in the handout for this, so I thought somebody should be there from Let's Grow Kids.
Great, perfect. Well, I think we all probably represent a pretty diverse sort of group here. So if it's okay with you guys, let's just jump right into it with the opportunities. So, what sort of makes us proud of Rutland and the Rutland region generally? What are the things that we do well currently?
I have to offer a caveat. I serve Rutland as an advocate to support advocacy for early childhood. So I don't live in Rutland. I've been in Rutland many times.
Yep.
So I don't have the same sort of knowledge as most people would. But one resource is I think there's an incredible energy about the city.
Energy. I like.
There's a vibrancy about the city that doesn't exist every place in Vermont, just from the feel I get when I'm in town working with people.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's cool. I like that because
that's awesome. Yeah,
it's not a tangible thing, which I think is cool. Energy, that's great. How about you, Nikki? What do you see as some of our sort of infrastructure-based strengths?
Infrastructure-based strengths specifically. Oh man, you get him the open-ended, and I get infrastructure-based.
Well, you can be open-ended too. I mean,
I mean, if you're thinking in terms of infrastructure and like architecture, I mean, we have these beautiful historic buildings in this area, that have been really well preserved and create this kind of magnificent skyline that we all get to enjoy every day that you don't find in other cities.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I think our downtowns and our village centers are really huge assets, and they're actually, it's funny, in modern planning and infrastructure, we talk about the 15-minute city and how we want these dense village settlement patterns. And in Vermont, our historic settlement patterns are the dense villages and downtowns. So I think that's a huge benefit versus like this expansive sprawl. So we have these dense, beautiful, historic downtowns. We have good energy. What else do we have? What are some other internal factors that kind of affect how the region performs in a strength? For me, I think of, obviously I'm a transportation planner, so I think of our roads, our rail system with Amtrak, our airport, all those things, and how they interplay with each other. We have a good bus route system. We have the sort of basic ingredients with those three sort of big modes, which is great. I also think, we have some really busy routes that go through the Rutland region, like Route 7 and Route 4. And while that can be a weakness, it also can be a strength because we have 30,000 cars per day going through Rutland City. So, I mean, that's an untapped sort of resource, if we're getting them to stop and sort of smell the roses in downtown, right?
Right.
And that also allows for our northwest corridor and east. Rutland connects to parts of the state east of Rutland that, if you just looked at a map, you wouldn't expect it to happen. But since those two intersections, that intersection is there, really, maybe that's part of what creates the sense of vibrancy. I feel when I get into town. Two main routes going into town. There are only a few such places in Vermont.
Right, and that's our sort of bypass name for Rutland is the Crossroads of Vermont. So that's kind of cool. What do you guys think? What are kind of the most valuable sort of assets to our regional marketplace? Like, I know both of you works somewhat with recreation at times. We certainly have some great parks and outdoor assets that set us apart, I think. And some of that is infrastructure based, like actual parks like Pine Hill Park and trail networks. Amanda had mentioned the Velomont Trail as sort of a product of this exercise, which is going to be a boon for the Vermont, no doubt. How about, what do you think we're good at besides infrastructure? What do you think sort of Rutland County, what do we do well? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I think just access.
Access.
I know that's not a physical thing, but when you land here, you just have access to everything through those transportation routes that you mentioned earlier. All those parks are within a 15-minute drive, right? Killington is in a 15-minute drive. I think it's all about accessibility. You're not driving an hour and a half through nothing. Like everything is super, super close.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
I have limited exposure given my role, but one thing that I'm impressed with is the resourcefulness of the workforce. At least the early childhood education workforce, they find ways. They found ways to get through COVID. I mean, you had to be resourceful or you couldn't possibly perform. And I was brought to tears many times by the resilience that was shown by the people who were really facing dire situations every day and just continuing to pull through. So I'm impressed by that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I do think we're a very sort of rugged and pragmatic group in Vermont. So that's great.
I think that's true of all sectors of what the people that pulled through in amazing ways, not just from the people I know. Rutland's doing okay, I guess, given the situation.
Sure. Yeah. Just for the sake of time, we can always circle back to strengths if we want to, but let's try to use some of these strengths and then talk about our opportunities. So, what partnerships could lead to greater success? What changes or trends are happening that kind of align with any of our strengths? What do you guys think for opportunities?
I think there's things we've talked about before, even just the two of us, where the opportunity for moving remote workers here who are interested in outdoor recreation, and just marketing, an opportunity for marketing those resources to the greater Vermont area for those that may not be aware of everything we have in Rutland County. We certainly know that there is a lot and nothing is in one place. So that's kind of difficult to manage and send a clear message with. So I think that's a total opportunity for us to capitalize on and promote us to the rest of the country, really.
Yeah, that's great.
I think the politicians that represent the Rutland County really do work hard to try and represent everyone and do what they can for I mean, we pushed through a bill that didn't have universal support. Art Peterson, for example, voted against it. But aside from that, even though some people aren't particularly interested in raising revenue, we got the votes when push came to shove. It's like, yeah, we need to do this for the community. I was really impressed with how they performed.
Yeah, that's great. And I see that as an opportunity, definitely. Absolutely. If we have that sort of advocacy at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What about what do you see as the gaps? And not so much as a negative sort of weakness, but more as an opportunity.
The gaps relating to like which strength or gaps? Can you reframe the question?
Yeah, so like kind of still keeping in, I know we've kind of been all over the place, but if we could try to keep it within that infrastructure sort of lens, you know, we have these strengths, we certainly have some weaknesses. What are the gaps between those two that could potentially be filled with some opportunity? You know, like for me, my one thought is, you know, we have some walkable downtowns, but not all of them are. So there's some serious gaps in walkability, and there's some pretty serious variation between the towns, and that could be improved. Something along those lines. Or, you know, we have this thing with the crossroads of Vermont. We're talking about Route 4 and 7. You know, are there sort of opportunities there that are not being explored, or gaps in service there?
I mean, there definitely could be in regards to like maybe directionality on 4 and 7. So maybe more signage, like that big signage that goes over the road. Like there's only really at that crossroads, like, yes, this is this way and this is this way, but like, can that say like, you know, X historic town this way? Like you can get to Poultney and all these other towns. Do we need more signage like that along our roadways that's a little more explanatory for, say, Rutland County towns with historic downtowns or otherwise that are off the beaten path? That could be something that we could look into.
Absolutely. I know you're working on wayfinding, and it's a huge thing, especially for downtowns. How about opportunities for partnerships to sort of address some of our shortcomings? Do you guys think of any right off the top of your head that could be out there and possible? I know there's one person on this call tonight that I saw that is a huge potential partner, and that's Claudio Fort from the hospital. You know, the hospital's always looking for partnerships. And if we're thinking about infrastructure, and which often it seems to be around recreation and transportation, or housing, you know, certainly these public-private partnerships for areas with really limited funding seem to be really pretty useful in areas of the country that have explored that. Any of others like that sort of can think of?
I'm trying to rack my brain right now.
That is okay. That might be too sort of focused, and you know, the opportunities piece is hard because it kind of fits in well with the sort of strengths. So let's just kind of table that piece and move on to aspirations, and because I think this one is kind of for me the nuts and bolts of guiding the sort of results. So, you know, the aspiration is basically, what do we care about and what do we want to be, right? So what should the future of the Rutland region look like?
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
I think it should be walkable. It should be healthy. It should be family friendly. It should be clean, and it should be welcoming.
I completely agree. I feel like when sort of Vermont's general aura in the world out there is a place that's healthy, that's clean, that's sort of outdoors and, you know, one with nature. So I think hammering on that, that's great. Rex, what do you think?
Well, I might sound like Johnny One Note, but childcare is an infrastructure issue.
Yeah.
We're not going to get young families that want to be here, and we need to have young families flocking here until we have a system that allows them to say, okay, we know that our kids will be taken care of, and we can both work, because that's the way it generally is. You can't generally live on one income unless you happen to be in a profession that allows you to just rake in the cash. And so I see incredible potential for that, because we're really making moves now on that, but that's got to be part of the picture if you want to have a vibrant economic future for the area.
Yeah, I agree. Childcare centers or more opportunities for childcare would get probably a lot more people in the workforce, and free up that labor shortage that we have. That's great. How can we sort of make the difference in achieving some of these aspirations? You know, whether they're small scale, large scale, you know, what do you foresee our sort of groups and organizations doing to further those goals?
I think advocacy for places like Rutland is really huge, and people that are willing to stand up to say negativity, and continue to advocate for the resources that we do have and inform others is the biggest opportunity for all of us. And it's the smallest free, movement that we can accomplish, right? It doesn't cost money to tell people that life is great here and to explain what's available, because I think a lot of people miss out on opportunities because they don't know about them.
Yep. And that speaks to a couple things that I think are sort of big in this realm, and that is, one, planning. Obviously, I have a sort of a slant towards that, because we've seen time and time again the communities that plan tend to get what they plan for. And siloing, breaking down silos so we're not duplicating efforts or diluting sort of efforts, and making sure that our work that we're doing is collaborative and not detractive. So, you know, really being collaborative with groups and opening communications and building sort of working groups like a CEDS, I think goes a long way. What do you think, Rex?
I work with oh God, I always draw a blank on the project vision.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Those meetings are always about, okay, we have this agenda, but meanwhile, along the sidelines, things get addressed, and people are looking at what can we do together. It's a refreshing meeting to be at. But I think that's an incredible asset for the city itself.
Yeah, and I think that is a good model for what we could do and replicate elsewhere, because I think, you know, just attending a project vision meeting, you learn so much about stuff you might not ever even consider needing to know, but then it supports your goal as well. So I think that's huge. Absolutely, that's fantastic. Okay, let's go on to results, and then we'll touch on each one again, just because we only have 8 minutes here. And so far, great. Like I'm loving what we're hearing. I'm sure we're all seem to be very much on the same page with this stuff, and it's really just like narrowing the focus, right? So starting broad and getting narrower. So results. you know, what are those sort of tangible outcomes and measurements that demonstrate, you know, if you have achieved those sort of goals and aspirations that we're talking about. So, for instance, what sort of measures will tell us that this is working?
Well, demographic changes. It depends on how far out you're going to measure. But if in 5 years we can say, oh, the average age of Rutland County has actually dropped by half a year. I mean,
that's a great one.
Average, a clear indicator, right?
Yeah, average age. Yeah, new residents. That's a huge thing that we're trying to do. I think along with that average age comes sort of like school age folks too.
Enrollments.
How many enrollments? Yeah. I know for me as, you know, an alderman, I think of revenue, right? So like how much taxes are we generating from, if we're making these big infrastructure improvements, are we seeing a return on that investment elsewhere, you know, within that sort of realm?
I think you can also look at how many businesses open and then look at development in that favor, because when you increase your population, developers eye your area more and more starts to pop up, more new construction, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if we have plans and back to planning, you know, if we can look back at a plan and see the objectives and sort of check off, yeah, we did that, we did that, we did that, then that's at least a way to look back and see if you're achieving the sort of goals you set out. Let's see. Yeah, that's great so far. That's great. In terms of sort of transportation pieces, you know, if kind of looking back at our sort of big assets, those are really easy to measure because we have for the rail, we have passengers, for aviation, we have enplanements, for transit, we have ridership. So all those are very measurable. And if one of our goals is to be more walkable, one is, you know, certainly pedestrian volume, that's always easy to do, but maybe it's how many less cars are on the roads and more people walking. Any last thoughts on results?
I think we covered it.
Okay. I want to go back to opportunities and strengths for a minute, and I want to ask you both. If you're Jeff Bezos, right, and you have, you know, let's just say let's say $25 million to spend in the Rutland region at your complete discretion for public infrastructure, what are you going to spend it on?
Do you want to go first, Rex? Or do you want me to?
That's you passing it off, huh?
I'm ready to go, but I can't see you.
Okay.
So
I can go. I don't know exactly where I'd put the money, but I would focus on the people that are. $25 million is going to go really far if you can do something that impacts the people that have least.
Yeah.
I don't know where that is. I don't know if it will help with housing. I don't. But if your focus is on, if we can help the people that have least gain a sense of truly belonging to the community, and it's their community too, as opposed to always struggling just to get through each month. I'm not Jeff Bezos. I mean, the joke is he hasn't chosen to solve world hunger today. So, but that's where I try to focus. I don't know the precise way in which you could do that, but that's where I want to put, because there's a lot of energy to be tapped if families that are totally strapped aren't just worried about how to put food on the table today and get the lights back on.
Great. Thank you, Rex. We only have a couple minutes, so Nikki, rattle them off. What do you got?
So infrastructure does not include housing, right?
No, it can. Sure.
It can.
Yeah.
Because my original thought was redevelop the Amtrak station and make that a very beautiful, welcoming place in Rutland as far as like transportation and infrastructure goes. Adding a big green space in that area that's like, you know, that kind of exercise equipment that people can use and visit to go tie in with the healthy aspect into the hospital. And then on the other hand, dump the rest into housing, affordable housing for families, for low income, for moderate income. That we have a total void of housing around here, and it's really difficult for people to move here. So I think we have to address that issue before we attract them, right? Because if you get them on the line and then they get here, they can't find a place to live, they're going to choose somewhere where that's an option.
Absolutely. We talked about this last night in a committee meeting at the Board of Aldermen, because this is a huge issue. And that sort of for me dovetails into a total lack of housing downtown, which is could be a huge asset, and especially these like 2-over-1s, 3-over-1s, 4-over-1s that have retail space in the bottom and, you know, multiple floors of living space above. That's great. I agree. Housing's huge, and especially, you know, Rex, if we're focusing that housing on those that need it the most, because we know we have a large underhoused population in Rutland City and beyond. So making sure the benefits of the results are felt equitably amongst all people is huge. And I think it's okay to say that we want to empower those with the least as well. I think that's great. Housing for me as well, you know, and this is such a subjective sort of personal choice, is bicycle infrastructure. I think we have one of the most expansive trail systems in the world developing in Vermont, and yet almost nobody rides a bike to work, you know, and that's because the infrastructure is based around cars, not around people. So if we really make a human scale city and town that really prioritizes people over cars, I think that's transformative for a community. I mean, it's been proven in Europe with like bike culture and like transforming their sort of socio-economic well-being. It's great. All right, we have 30 seconds. What are the last thoughts? Anything? Thank you guys. You guys did great.
I mean, in relation to biking, we have this giant Pine Hill Park, and you can't get to it with a bike lane through anywhere in the city. That's ridiculous.
Could one of you tell somebody that I still have a sign saying I will be admitted to the meeting on my other screen.
Well,
Okay.
We're going back in one.
Going.
Nice. Things are good. Things are good. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Amanda's floating around. She's trying to take care of everything all at once. She's got a big job tonight. We have a guest on the line. Can I ask who's joining us?
Oh, she's muted. You're muted, Judy. She's the Pulteney Chamber Director.
Yes. Hi, Judy. Thanks for joining us tonight. So my instructions say type your name into the chat so we can get it all for the record, but there's only 2 of us, so we don't need to do that. I got Judy Leach and I have Nancy Shuttleworth, and I am pleased to have you both in my little room tonight. So I am, for those who may not be aware, I'm Tyler Richardson. I am the Operations Director for Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland Region, otherwise known as CEDR. And again, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I think Amanda did a great job outlining the reason for being here tonight. And this is a multi-part session. And this is important to inform our process going forward in terms of how do we get more resources to our region. So first of all, can you hear me? Nancy, I see you.
Yeah.
You can hear me just fine? Okay, great. I was having some microphone issues earlier. So to start, I think what would be great for us for record keeping purposes, and again, we are recording this. If you could type, if you're able to type into the chat, one word that you think best describes the regional economy, and while you kind of chew on that over your, in your head, if you have one word right away, awesome, throw it out there. But I'm going to do a little preamble, and then we're going to kind of get started with the exercise here. So that we go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, one word that describes the county?
That describes the regional economy in Rutland County. So as Amanda mentioned, we're here to conduct a SOAR tonight, which is distinguished from a SWOT by being more of the appreciative inquiry type of more positive focused and proactive focused. We're here to explore the region's strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. And that's certainly not to ignore the weaknesses and the threats. We don't want to ignore the problems, but we want to focus on what we want and not what we don't want. We want to reframe the threats and weaknesses to focus on where we're going. We want to identify, particularly as Amanda mentioned, issues around economic resilience and economic development in Rutland County. And specifically, our breakout session this evening is on the topic of business climate, innovation, and entrepreneurship. The SOAR exercise will be, again, factored into the writing of a multi-region comprehensive economic development plan that will address feasible changes and actions over the short term of 1 to 5 years, but also the long term, 10 to 20 years. And the goal here is to update this every 5 years. So 5 years from now, I hope to see you here again. We understand very much the time is limited tonight. We have about an hour all told until 7 o'clock to get this exercise underway. But as has been alluded to by Amanda, there'll be more opportunities to share and collect your input going forward. So this isn't a one and done type of thing. We're not looking to have a big discussion this evening, although we have a small group, so we certainly have a little bit more freedom to collect perspectives and a little bit more time to hear you all out. But because our time is limited, I will be a ruthless timekeeper. So I have no control over when we are yanked out of this room. So I want to make sure that we get to all of the topics covered. A lot of times, if you've been through a SWOT or a SOAR, all the good stuff is focused on the strengths, and then by the end of it, there's no time left for.
Yeah. You know what would have been very helpful, Tyler, is if they had given this information prior to the meeting, so that people could think about it and reflect on it.
That's really great feedback, and I think well, this is the first. We're the guinea pigs, so we're doing this the first of the regional group that's conducting this work, but we'll also be doing this again in the fall. So this is going to be great feedback for how we can improve the process going forward. So thank you for that, and I will be taking furious notes until my fingers are sore. I'm sorry, I had to make that joke. So send out information before. All right, so let's dive right into the strengths. And again, what we're really framing this around is Rutland County and economic resilience, economic development around the topic of business climate, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And Judy, I hope you're able to unmute yourself eventually. It would be great to hear your feedback. Your perspective is valuable and important as a part of this process. So strengths, as kind of defined as a part of this process, is kind of what do we do well in the region? What makes us proud? What are our key assets and resources and capabilities that we could leverage for future opportunities? And I'll throw that out there for the group.
Strengths, yeah.
What makes us unique? What are some of our what makes us most valuable in the marketplace of communities, so to speak?
I think it's location a little bit, because we're central. We're not real far north. Obviously, you know, what makes us unique, we have a lot of recreation activities in the area. We have college, you know, colleges, or we have one college, I think now, Castleton University. You know, so, but we have the Community College of Vermont. I think those are, you know, real strengths for an area. You know, we have a downtown that has struggled, but, you know, has potential. And, you know, a lot of people have worked on that and are continue to work on it. And a lot of people that are, you know, from where I'm sitting, a lot of people that are looking to do business, start business here.
What about going back to your location point? What do we have that some more of that natural resource stuff, right? Like what is here that is unique to here and isn't going anywhere? I guess I'm thinking more along the lines of like, you talk about recreation. You know, obviously you're referencing the mountains and the trails. What else along that topic do we have in the area in terms of natural resources that we can draw upon for economic development?
Well, I was going to say, you know, it's sort of a draw that we have a low population here in a sense, but that's not going to help economic development necessarily or directly. So what else can?
But that small community feel. I see. I know what you mean. Like that's attractive to people, communities of our size. So I'm definitely going to put that.
Yeah, yeah.
What about like the slate or the more of the natural resources? Do you feel like that's something that we excel at, something that's unique to our region that we could leverage for as an opportunity?
It is unique because not everywhere produces the slate that we produce here. That's true. Gee, I wish Judy was could unmute because she's a long-term Poultney resident.
Yeah. I've tried to unmute her myself, but I don't seem to have that capability. Yeah.
I don't know that that's a draw for economic development. I don't know. You know, it could be. I don't really know a lot about that. I mean, I know people that are in that industry here, and I know families that have been in it for a long time, but I don't know what the opportunities are there.
Don't we move? Any other thoughts on the strengths? Let me look at my little guiding notes here. Let's move on to opportunities then. And so, kind of as defined in this process, what particularly through the lens of our strengths, right? Like what opportunities are out there that we could build upon or draw from or create vis-a-vis our strengths by drawing upon our strengths. Am I making sense, Nancy?
Mm-hmm.
You'll give me the straight shoot. You'll give me the straight skinny if I'm not making any sense here.
Well, you know, I think that the people here are very resilient and you know, to me it always feels like people here know how to do a lot of different things. They're diversified in a way, or they can be diversified in a way with the way they create opportunities for themselves and you know, ultimately make some money. So I mean, I see that a lot. You know, I do. I see that a lot on a small scale and medium scale and like larger scale. So
would you use the word innovative?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of innovation here, for sure. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So going back and looking at your list of strengths, how could we build on this? How can we, so for example, how can we build on the recreational strengths that we have to create additional opportunities, whether they're more opportunities in the same arena or different opportunities using our recreational assets, for example?
So, I mean, you've got the ski areas that are, fairly, mostly not used in the summertime. Well, I mean, they are for the trails and whatnot, but there's for biking and all. But I mean, look at up in the north. Is it Jay Peak that has the big? It's a big draw. It's the it's like a family center, waterworks, slide, that whole thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have, and if Judy was on, she'd be telling you about the Slate Valley Trails in Poultney that, they're developing these trails for biking and hiking. That's been a fairly good size initiative there. I mean, we have, parts of the Long Trail that go through this section. We have, places to kayak. How, do we, maybe we develop it so, I mean, we obviously have ponds and lakes, but sometimes it's not easy accessing some of that stuff. How do you get in there? Where do you park? Is there a place to park? Or am I gonna, drag the kayak through the woods, a half a mile, that kind of thing.
I'm pulling up my chat here, Judy. You're listening, but your phone's dropped and you're getting music, no audio. Uh-oh.
Gosh.
So sorry about that, Judy. Please keep typing. And you said you can hear us. We value your feedback very much. So please keep typing, and we will keep talking, and hopefully you'll be able to click back in here audially.
I was thinking also, like, they're going back to the little what do they call them, the parklets downtown. Mm-hmm. And I've always thought, I mean, when I saw those, I thought, why haven't we done that like a million years ago? Or there's always been like, why don't we close off a section of Center Street in the summer so there's more of an outside area, that kind of thing. So I mean, I that's not recreation, but it does draw people, when they're going through.
Well, and it's kind of similar what you just said with the ski area, is the opportunity to develop that asset, but also develop the access to the asset. How do we get people to know about it and get people to actually show up? That's great. What about any before I move on to aspirations? What about you mentioned, Judy? We're talking about Rutland County. Although the parklets that Nancy mentioned were specific to Rutland City.
Yeah, right. And and I'm thinking about this too. It's even, access with, Bomazine's beautiful, nice lake. Mm-hmm. But there's limited places. You got to take your boat. If you have a boat with a motor, you have to basically take it in and out. If you have a different kind of boat, like a sailboat, you can't just take it in and out. There's limited places you can keep it. So there's limited, kinds of stuff like that. I mean, it's all the stuff is the recreation spots are there, but how do you access them? Is it easy,
Okay, perfect. And before we move on to aspirations, I did want to talk a little bit about to touch on Castleton University. Is there anything that pops up in your head when it comes to how do we to leverage that asset for to create an opportunity?
Well, I think it's still an opportunity, even if it's called something else. To me, that's fine. I think it's how we how it's promoted, maybe if there's a tagline with it, maybe if it, the tagline is, is regional. It's just how we promote it is to me almost more important than what we call it.
Got it. And Judy, I don't, oh. Yeah, and it's definitely, yeah, that's, so if I'm understanding your point, Judy, that is a draw in and of itself, that that Castleton will be one of the few state colleges left, and that would definitely be an opportunity for us to leverage that regional asset. And please correct me if I'm misunderstanding that. And please, Judy, keep typing if we're going to move on to aspirations, but if you think of other opportunities or strengths, don't hesitate to type in. As we move on to aspirations, the kind of how it's defined here as part of this process is what do we care deeply about? What do we want to be and achieve in the future? What's the vision to build on our current strengths and opportunities, provide inspiration, and improve our situation?
Well, that's a very large question,
that is a large question as that was coming out of my mouth. I agree with that.
Well, look if you're going to live here, you have to make a living. So, or you're going to come here and you're going to visit and be a tourist. So what are the places to stay? And if you're going to live here, what are you going to do for a living? So, I mean, those are pretty important.
And it looks like Judy has thrown out a couple things here. It sounds like one of them is a strength. That Rutland County has a single entry point is in this part of the state, Route 4 in Fairhaven. Great point. And Rutland needs to redevelop its assets. Outside Rutland is still rural by choice. And I'm going to put that under opportunity, but I'm also going to kind of pick that apart and also put that into a strength. The rural by choice thing, I think, really speaks well to something that we were talking about earlier, which was the size of the area, that the people move here because they want to live quite often in a more rural type location, which is definitely a strength and an opportunity to grow our population for folks that want to come and take advantage of those types of assets. So going back to aspirations, what are we passionate about as a region? What do we want? How can we, as a region, make a difference and stand out in the world, and support and protect ourselves? Those might be very different questions.
Well, so I mean, some people might say, the broadband technology is an issue. How are we going to stand out anywhere in a modern world if we can't deliver that?
So you would say an aspiration is a broadband build out throughout the whole county that is modern and supportive of a modern world. Am I getting that right?
Yes. And that means that people that have broadband, and it's a detail, but there are out in the county here, not in Rutland town, the people that do have some of the broadband that are supposedly have DSL, it isn't in reality real DSL, okay? Because it's the uploads and downloads are half what they're supposed to be. So just as a side note, so we can't say, oh, we're delivering broadband if we're really not delivering it.
Right. So it needs to be functional, and it needs to be accessible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Judy, I see your comment here, and I'm gonna frame that in an aspirational way, very clumsily. So I apologize. But the aspiration that I'm reading from your comment is, how do we keep our rural nature, and how do we keep our identity, and not be like every other town USA. That's how I'm interpreting that, and I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think probably in that as well as is the whole solar expansion. You know, yes, people. One of the great things about being in this area is, or people coming here, they can have some land. A lot of people that come here want at least 10 acres. Mm-hmm. So they certainly, you know, if they're coming here to have 10 acres, they do not want to look at a farmland full of solar.
Right, right. Got it. They don't want to look at it. That's what I'm writing down.
Right. That's not to say that we can't have it. It's just, it's not being, you know, it's not about being anti-solar. It's just about, let's be thoughtful about where we're placing it, which comes back to the towns and permits and you know, that kind of thing. Let's just not, you know, put it anywhere.
Smart and considered planning.
You're right.
I'm glad you can hear us, Judy. This is great feedback. Perfect. Writing this down. And I think if it's in the comments, I don't need to write it down, but I'm going to write it down anyway, just to make sure. Okay, so as our time winds down here, we still need to get to results, but I did want to touch on one other thing. I'm curious, particularly, well, I was going to say particularly to you, Nancy, but you as well, Judy, because you both sort of work with businesses and entrepreneurs. What's our aspiration around that, about the support systems around that? What comes to mind when I throw that question out?
Just say it again, Tyler. I spaced out there for a minute because I'm going to be getting a storm here. But go on.
Oh no! Well, if your background makes everything look so okay.
I know. Well, that's the idea.
So in the terms of, in the framework of aspirations, like what do we want to achieve in the future, and what do we want to be? What sparks in your head when I talk about entrepreneurial support networks and things of that nature? The structure that's in place to support a business or an entrepreneur to succeed in an area. What pops into your head in that regard?
The SBDC. So, I mean, I think that the state has enormous resources for people that want to start businesses. I mean, really, there are enormous resources. You know, you've got SBDC, you've got SBA, you've got you know, CWE, and you know, we've got Brock, and that's just there's other organizations too. So if people are willing to, you know, take those steps and do the work and connect with people, then it's available. It's absolutely available. Yeah.
Perfect. It's available. And I'm also going to include in there, Judy, your comment on the incubator building in Poultney. Thank you for that. So 2.5 minutes left. Results. And that we are defining as well. What are the tangible outcomes? What are the measures, particularly that demonstrate that we've achieved our goals and aspirations? How do we know we're on track to achieve our vision? What's that look like?
I think that looks like, you know, when you can look at metrics, like we do at SBDC, and say, you know, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I could certainly get them for you easily. It says, you know, we helped, you know, we advised, you know, X amount of people last year, or we helped X amount of people get capital. You know, X amount of people started businesses. So, you know, I mean, those numbers are there for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, they're definitely there. So I think you could measure it in some sense like that. I mean, but there's like, you know, all of these organizations, including CEDR, that, you know, work with people. There's a lot of anecdotal information that just, you know, may get missed there somewhere. You know, all the little ways, you know, we help and assist and you know, cheerlead to get people in the right direction.
Perfect. And Judy, I see your comment about many people don't look for government type resources and may not know they exist. I definitely see that as an opportunity, very similar to Nancy's point about getting the word out about our recreational assets. How do we also get, it's an opportunity to get the word out about all the deep support systems that are available in the state of Vermont, and that's how I'm kind of reframing it under this SOAR structure. I'll close here in a bit. Getting out about, or they're too busy to access them.
Yeah, that's true. Right. That's correct.
Yep, that's a great point. Okay, well, as we're winding down here, we're about to be ejected. Thank you very much for
likely nobody will be back to watch these recordings unless we've missed something. So,
or someone says something ridiculous, in which case you let me know.
Yes. Okay. So we are recording, and Jamie Lee and I know each other quite well. I also, Claudio, am working in the town of Poultney as a part-time economic development coordinator. So since we're both here, we're all here, perhaps we would like to spend a few minutes introducing ourselves. Jamie?
Great.
Claudio, would you like to go first?
I'm Claudio Fort. For the past 3 years, I've been here in Rutland as the president here at Rutland Regional. And before that, I spent 10 years up in Newport, Vermont, as the president of North Country Hospital up there. And my wife is a second grade teacher at the West Rutland School, and it's been a great tenure down here at Rutland. We've really enjoyed the region, and this is a great hospital, and I'm just here trying not to screw it up.
Aren't we all? Cool, Claudio. Thank you. That's awesome. Medical sector is covered. Jamie Lee. I know Sarah so well because I'm the chair of the Planning Commission here in Poultney, also member of the Development Review Board. I went to Green Mountain College. May she rest peacefully. And what, I've worked with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission before. That was great fun, and I've kind of stuck around since I graduated Green Mountain, and that's how I get roped into these local government things. Always excited to learn about how the economy is growing and how we can help shape that. I do work in the private sector though. I have a lot of fun over there. Google stuff, finance, industry mostly. But yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. It's nice to meet you, Claudio, and thank you, Jamie, for coming tonight. So a little bit more about me, Claudio. I am new to the Regional Planning Commission. I started in January of this year, but have been working in community revitalization and economic development in Vermont, all throughout Vermont, for about 15 years. I worked for a private consultancy in Middlebury called Landworks for 15 years previously, and have been involved in planning, landscape architecture, construction in the past, and yeah, a rather diverse background. So I'm actually a resident of Cornwall. So I am sitting in on the Addison's SOARs next week. Each of the other regions are doing their SOARs after Rutland. So, yeah, we go first.
SOARs.
So, yeah. So just to kind of restate the purpose of what this breakout room is, we are going to talk about the strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results for Rutland Region as we see them. I am supposed to ask you to put one word in the chat, if you are willing, what you think best describes, let me get this correctly, your thoughts on the regional economy. So as you do that, I will also tell you a little bit more about the intended use of this SOAR. It will be factored into the writing of the CEDS, and which will be updated every 5 years. But we are looking to address changes in actions over the short term, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years, but also the long term, 10 to 20 years.
So we're supposed to put one word to describe the regional economy?
Yes, if you can think of just one.
Just one word.
We can return to that if you like, and we can kind of get into the SOAR, because I know it's hard to think about that, you know, but I think from the perspective, you know, the unique perspective of all the people that are on the call, we're looking to really have a diverse response on that.
I'm thinking of an analogy for like a plant that's been repressed and it's just trying, it's finding all these ways to kind of grow out of where it's being put down from. And it's like just at that stage where it's about to break through the debris. I don't know what that would be.
I like
that. Actually, that's an interesting analogy. I think that's kind of how I view it as well.
I biased him. Dang it. Okay, I'll find a word for that at some point.
Okay.
I mean, unless there's another chat assignment that's going to mess up your order here.
There's not another.
Rebounding. That's pretty good.
Rebounding. Yes.
Or revitalizing, or.
Everyone in the other. Rebounding's good.
That's great. No, you can come back to it when you feel like it has come to you.
Okay, thank you.
So we can, let's start with the SOAR. Maybe we could talk for a few minutes. And the other thing that I should explain to you is that you have landed in the quality of life topic area. So we are looking to specifically focus on quality of life in the Rutland region and to identify each of those strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. So what do we think is a strength for quality of life in the Rutland area?
Ooh, I want to toss that to the medical guy.
Well, I think, you know, for this size region, I would say that we have strong health care and not just the hospital. I think, you know, access and availability of primary care, mental health care, substance abuse disorder care, and so I think there's a lot of strong healthcare in the area. And post-COVID, we've actually collectively, I think all and individually have done okay. We benefited from some state and federal economic COVID relief funding. And so I think we're all, you know, we've all recovered fairly well economically or financially.
Thank you. Those are great points.
Ooh, ha. I found my word and I was listening. I didn't know this word existed, but that is something that has been dormant.
Beautiful.
Term for Renaissance. Okay, that's why it sounds so similar.
They both start with R for Rutland too. So
oh my gosh, that's totally.
There you go.
Yeah, planned. For quality of life, are you ready, Sarah?
Yes.
Our wonderful scribe. I really want to do community because I work with people in New York, and my mother's in Connecticut, and they don't have what we have, where we've got neighbors that we talk. I mean, at least that's the case in Poultney, and hopefully, at least I dream it to be the case everywhere. Like Rutland, they've got their little secret Santa or whatever thing. Things happen here that don't happen, in those other cold and desolate places. We've got sort of a vibrant community. And sometimes it's hanging by a thread. It definitely got put to the test this last year, just like everywhere else, but I think we'll be good. Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah, I would agree. Even in Rutland City, we see, all of that kind of come together. Organizations from Steve Costello's Sculpture Trail to Come Alive Outside. I went up through Pine Hill Park about a month ago, and they did all this stuff for the kids who were home on break and all this. So there are some, there's some real community spirit that does this. This isn't, these are people coming together, a lot of volunteerism, a lot of, different factions coalesce to build the trails at Pine Hill and to do those type of things. So I would agree with you, Jamie.
I think those are, I absolutely agree with you. And just so you know, in some of the earlier research, we conducted a SWOT analysis. The regional planning commissions did, and those two came up as strengths among the planners and the economic development folks. So glad to hear that. So I'm going to move us into opportunities now. What do we think are the biggest opportunities for this region? Let me see if I can give you a few prompts. So what partnerships would lead to greater success, maybe? Changes and trends in the market that align with our strengths? What threats do you see that we could reframe as opportunities? That might be an easy one to work from. Needs and wants that we are currently not fulfilling, or gaps in the market.
Well, we've seen a lot of people flock to Vermont over this past year during the pandemic. At the hospital, we had some hard to recruit physician specialists kind of literally show up on our doorstep and say, hey, I was working downtown Manhattan and I've been, my hospital got shut down, all elective stuff has been shut down, and so I've had a place up in this area or up by Killington, and I've been doing stuff remotely here, and I think we've seen a lot of migration potentially, or second homeowners who have said, and maybe they're still thinking, I'd like to move, and with remote working catching on so quickly, they might be able to live here and work virtually anywhere in the country and enjoy the quality of life.
Yeah, that's a real opportunity. Do you feel as though, sorry, Jamie, do you feel as though we will keep the workers that have shown up on your doorstep? Is there a potential threat there, or an opportunity to incentivize them to stay?
They'll stay.
They'll stay. They'll stay.
Because of the community, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
He's thinking. I see the little bubbles.
I might have cut you off, Jamie, too. Did you have a thought about?
Okay. Do you want to? All right.
It's not materializing, Jamie. Don't.
Wonderful. Okay, I was going to say a very similar thing. This is a great group. But I was actually going to think of it as a threat. in that to the things, maybe not, certainly not the medical industry, the wonderful strengths that we have, but the community aspects. So if we have all these people that are coming in, but occupying their second homes, turning those into their primary residences, and then the great fear of all Vermonters across WCAX comment streams, which you should never read, is that they're coming in here and they want to change things. And we have seen that, or we've seen evidence of that changing, usually for the better, though. And how can we steer it so that it's always for the better? At least, maybe not always, but certainly we can steer it, we can try, we can hope, better than doing nothing. So that would be wealthy folks coming in who happen to have big ideas which bring them here, or while they're here, create ideas. They see a landscape and they say that should be a bike trail. So lots of good can come out of that, but it needs to be, I don't know, pushed around in such a way, using tools like local planning, maybe, but not being overbearing.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I'm trying to write it because I love the way you said it. Thank goodness I hit record.
Oh no.
No, but I think that there's, we've talked about this a bit too, creating the environment that allows, kind of creative responsives and, outside the box thinking, and making sure that we're welcome to it, that, but following regulation and, keeping to the extent that we can, making sure that we have regulation in place that is conducive to creating those types of environments.
Without spoiling the community, yes. So we need to keep that community. We can't just replace everybody. We don't want to. We want everyone to get along. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm sorry that I'm moving quickly, but we purposely scheduled this for a short amount of time, knowing that everyone is already on Zoom meetings quite a lot. And I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to talk about aspirations and results. So what is a vision for the Rutland region in terms of a quality of life and how the economy can be built as a resilient economy that supports our quality of life? What do we care most deeply about?
Yeah. Claudio, what you got?
I think, I think an aspiration that I would see for our Rutland County or our region is a little more diversity of economy. Healthcare probably, is a quarter of it. I don't know. We're too large of a part, and I think we shouldn't be one of the main. We should be a support service to other sectors of the economy. We shouldn't be driving the bus all the time, and so I think a little more balance, a little more, light manufacturing, startups, a little more hospitality, a little more, value-added agricultural products. I think there's, if we can bring some of that all up and raise that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And the quality of life that comes with that is, an increased opportunity for jobs, better jobs, right? Across the board, better paying jobs, and really resiliency in creating a, kind of strengthening this region as a lovely place to live. I'm just going to add on to that. Jamie, what do you think?
Excellent. All of that. He did it perfect. Just prosperity in general. I want everyone walking through town to have extra dollars in their pockets to go spend at some silly store. Like, I got a toy store next door. How awesome is that? Spend your money. Why not? To do that, we need everyone to have a job, and like a good competitive job, something, rising tides lift all boats, something like that.
Hey, one opportunity, I was thinking it on the aspiration, but I think it could also be an opportunity, is one of the challenges that we see in our community is childcare. And, there's a real a growing, established and growing need. I think the time is ripe for that because I think there's a lot of focus on that, or a growing focus. Let's Grow Kids has really been effective in getting them, getting their message out. The legislature has adopted a bill to look further into and develop some strategies to improve access to quality childcare, and it certainly would be, for the hospital where we have a lot of working parents or a lot of single parents who are working. It would help us recruit some critical healthcare folks if we had, better access to childcare. I think that's one of the challenges.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is, and I think in some of the earlier work that we did in reviewing the data, Rutland County stood out for some within the context of the West Central Vermont region as being a little bit less educated than some of the other areas, and having less of those types of opportunities in social the framework, I guess. So I think that's really important for Rutland County. Certainly Vermont, all of Vermont needs better access to childcare, but I think some of those sort of social factors stand out when you look at the Rutland region. Jamie, did you want to add anything?
I was going to gripe because back when I was working for the Regional Planning Commission in 2007 with the town of Poultney and a municipal planning grant, childcare was an issue then. It was a priority issue then. So I'm sad, but I'd like to know maybe the numbers have shifted since then a little bit and progress has been made. Childcare is an issue, and then I think, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but housing in Rutland County is kind of in bad shape compared to the rest of the state. Mm-hmm. We need those.
So an opportunity to invest in improved housing or new housing, or both?
Improve, always, downtown, always improve, revitalize, infill. But of course you can make new stuff, I guess. Not in Poultney. In Poultney, you should grow in the smartest areas to grow in, which are connected to water and sewer in the downtown. This is being recorded.
Claudio, is housing a topic that comes up quite a bit?
It is. I think both of those, you said, Jamie, I think, the existing housing stock, could be revitalized, and then I think it seems like we need, there's not a lot, there doesn't seem to be a lot of new housing starts, new construction, and so forth. And so I think there's some opportunities that there, and even shorter term transitional housing and rental housing is a challenge.
Okay, so we will be pulled back shortly, probably in about 5 minutes. So what do we think are results? How would we know that we're succeeding in creating this aspirational, how do we get money in the pockets of everyone to spend, and this prosperity that we're looking for?
Well, with the childcare thing, I'm still waiting for data from 2007, but we're gonna, to show a return on investment, if you will, then we'd have to use income, I would think, I guess, but then again, if a bunch of rich people come, which is wonderful, they should all come, being recorded, then that'll artificially inflate that. I don't know, Claudio?
Well, I printed off the economic summary that you sent out, and you've got a lot of metrics here on there. So there are from access to affordable, high quality childcare. The metric you have 66% of infants without access to childcare. You could kind of use that as the baseline, and you know, in 5 years, we'd like to have that go down to 40% don't have access, and or you know, so it seems like, and there are some, you know, pre-established things that we could look at to, you know, the age of housing stock, median income, poverty rate, racial diversity we didn't touch on, but I think diversity is an area that our communities are struggling with, and you know, how do we can we be more welcoming and supportive and more understanding of some of these issues, and increase our understanding. Diversity on race, ethnicity, you know, sexual orientation, and, you know, economics, socioeconomic diversity. So.
Okay, excellent. We do intend to use the metrics that were already developed on the website, which I'll be talking about a little bit more when we come back to the group, and to create a dashboard that will be updated over the course of the next year or so as we write that first draft CEDS. But yeah, this is really, really great information. And I think, you know, while we're here, eventually, as Amanda was talking about, we're going to be looking for those projects that really have a big impact on the region to identify, you know, she talked about Due North and the incubator space in Hardwick and Springfield and the Velomont Trail. And the goal of the CEDS is to identify those projects for each region, and what really helps to move the needle, what will help us to implement this, you know, our SOAR. Drive the economy.
CEDS and SOARs. God, could have chosen better words. But
yes.
They're going to pull about any second, right?
Well, I usually get the 10-second, you know, oh, I see.
Is it happening?
There's a little timer at the top of mine.
Yes. Do you see the one that says 3:30?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Ooh, we have 3 minutes.
We have 3 minutes left.
Neat.
We were too efficient.
We were. Well, Claudia, you did your homework. Sarah, what are you asking us this for? You already did it.
I know, right? Yeah, we wanted to make sure that we were doing this correctly. So, you know, you've got to talk to everybody. But also, you know, we did the SWOT, which has the weaknesses and threats, and wanted to frame it in the context of SOAR, positive, forward-thinking, visioning, with the public engagement. Later this summer, there will be public engagement where each of the regions will be going out to, you know, businesses or key stakeholders within their region to collect further information, more meetings. But yeah, we'd really like to get out in the field and see exactly what that means. And the hospital has certainly come up in so many of my conversations over the past year, even in Poultney, and its importance, and how the hospital has changed the region, I think, and has changed itself over the past 15 to 20 years or so. So Claudio, we'll be talking again.
Yeah, we've really tried to appreciate that, you know, as tough as this past year was, you know, for us, and, you know, we're healthcare providers, we know how to wear masks and some of this stuff, although we had to relearn a lot of it. You know, how difficult was it for the schools or the restaurants or so forth, you know, who didn't, you know, I was fortunate. I had, you know, infection control professionals, nurses, I had physicians at our disposal that we could consult with right here. So we tried to do some of this and provide some of this and provide this COVID occupational health service for free to some of our local businesses to help them kind of navigate through the pandemic, and we're going to continue providing this for a couple more months as they recover to help. The recovery is becoming almost as challenging as when we were in the middle of it, because we're like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
when do we stop wearing masks in the hospital, and how do we do that, and how do we, when's it safe to bring on more visitors? There's no roadmap for this stuff, and so, but we're definitely in the right direction, and things are looking very, very positive. So
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Claudio. We appreciate you down here.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like, what is the analogy, or building the plane as we're flying it?
Yeah.
Shouldn't do that.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't use that analogy, but
Oh, no, it's a good one.
it sounds scary though, doesn't it?
Sorry, yeah, it's terrible. It's apt.
Yes.
Oh my God, 30 seconds, but yay. Okay,
All right.
well, pleasure to meet you, Claudio.
Same here.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Sarah, I'll see you around.
We'll see. Don't leave yet.
I think it's recording. Hi, JH.
It's John Van Hoosen up at Addison County Regional Planning Commission.
Oh, hi, John. How are you?
Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, how's life in the regional planning world?
It's fantastic.
Is it?
Yeah, no, it really is. Everything that I thought it would be, so very happy.
Oh, good. Yeah, Steve told me you were up there, so he always talks about you.
Yeah, well, looking forward to catching up with you all in person eventually.
Yeah, that would be nice. So I am Ed Bove. I'm the director of the Regional Planning Commission, and you guys have found your way into the Land Use and Natural Resources, SOAR group. So I'm supposed to ask you to type your name into the chat, and if you can't do that, I can write it down because I know who you are, but I think that helps with the recording thing. So just, if you can, type it in. Perfect. All right. I'm just going to write that quickly, and then we will get going. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the SOAR is quickly again, and then what we're going to do. And then we're just going to keep talking until the time runs up. So there's a little timer. We've got 25 minutes to do that. So with the three of us, we might have a little time extra at the end. So
can I ask a clarifying question?
Of course.
How did we get sorted into groups? Because I don't know that my expertise is particularly land use related, although I'm happy to talk about land, but anyway.
You got sorted because we weren't sure how many people we were going to have attending. So we got a handful for each, and then we thought, well, people might want to choose, and then it came down to, well, maybe this would be a good way to get people out of their zone of comfort and answer questions on land use and natural resources to someone who might not be an expert. So that's actually perfect. John, I know you have some experience in this world. So, we are in the breakout room for the SOAR, which is a Strengths, Opportunities, Aspiration, and Results Analysis. So what this is, and I am reading from a script, just so I don't mess it up totally, but it's an analysis. It's a strategic planning tool that focuses on current strengths and vision of the future for developing strategic goals. This tool differs from a SWOT, which I think we've all heard of what a SWOT is, like strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. Analysis, because it focuses, well, I like to think more on like where you want to be and less top down than kind of what might be the issues or the problems or the threats or the weaknesses of the region. So it's kind of like what's being done well now and where we want to be going forward. What are the results of that rather than kind of living in the past? So the basic questions are, what are our greatest strengths? What are our best opportunities? So that's kind of very similar to the SWOT. What's our preferred future? Like our aspiration, what do we care deeply about, that sort of thing. And then what are like measurable results? Like what does that mean in real life with, we are where we want to be as a region. So with that, You've done that part. Okay, so I'm just going to open it up, and I'm not going to talk, I've got a list of things I also think that the region has well in terms of land use and natural resources. So why don't I maybe share that, because it might give you guys a little bit of something to chew on, because there's not a lot about here, and then you can come in with that too. So strengths, what can we build on? Like what key resources, capabilities, accomplishments? So I have, just jotting these down quickly, like what in the region I think we have well. I think we have some like compact, walkable, mixed-use centers surrounded by rural natural resources. I think we have limited sprawl, which is beneficial in the land use and natural resource world. I think we have great access to natural resources, even though we do have our tight little downtowns. And I just put down, I think we have great architecture in the region. So those are some quick ones that I put down. So with that, what's coming to your minds as a great strength we have for land use and natural resources?
I was waiting to see if John wanted to go first.
So Karen, I lived in Rutland County for 16 years. I know it quite well, but I'm really here to make sure that we have consistency with, the Regional Planning Commission presentation. So I definitely want you to share your thoughts before I jump in. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I feel like one of the things that's great about the Rutland region is the adjacency of our natural resources. So like a good example might be Pine Hill Park, how close it is to everything else, so that I can be downtown and ride my bike from downtown to some pretty epic, like mountain biking, for example, or I could hike there or whatever. So I feel like sometimes in other places, you could go be outdoors, but you have to go far to get there. Our outdoors is like right at our back step, sort of. And I think that's really cool. So it's a nice mix of the opportunities that you get with a, large town / really small city. But you're not far away from anything that you might want to do outdoors, which is cool.
John, I know you're a mole from another RPC. What do you think?
I think, yeah, I mean, this isn't necessarily unique to Rutland County, but when we're talking about it from the context of a CEDS, and at least Addison and Rutland together, it's literally lake to mountains, right? So you have access to Lake Champlain all the way to the Greens. And I don't think that for years there was like this language about the South Lake being the gateway to Lake Champlain, and I don't think that has really been leveraged or marketed in a way that would, I think, open up all sorts of opportunities in, Western Rutland County. And then the same is true, and again, I don't think this is just Rutland County, but no one's really leveraged that I'm aware of the thousands of acres of Green Mountain National Forest land, right? And so it's there, people come and make use of it, but no one's sort of, again, to use that same language, like the gateway to the Appalachian Trail, or like Rochester has done a really great job with their Rasta that I believe is now being renamed, and all their trails. So I think there's some opportunities with long existing and very well-known natural resources that maybe now is the time, with funding either through ARPA or just this particular endeavor, to leverage those natural resources in a way, and carefully, and keep it, protected, but that offers new opportunities.
All right, I actually put that in the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Piece. So that's good. How about some other things that had come up from the SWOT analysis? and I'll just read these off to you, and you can kind of maybe say yay, nay, shake your head. Ag, history of farming and local foods.
Yeah.
New recreation destinations, that is, Brandon, Poultney, like gateway to the outdoors, and Southwest Kingdom in Poultney is what the strength here is from the SWOT says. We have a lot of water. It's top of the watershed.
Mm-hmm.
A good chunk of conserved lands. Numerous parks and green spaces. So those also came out of the strengths. Is that? Yeah, Karen, you say yes to that. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So opportunities though, what about like some of the, I know it's hard to categorize natural resources and land use in one, but like for me as like kind of an urban planning geek, like I said, I value a lot of the walkable mixed use centers we have, some of the architecture. Karen, is there anything on that like you love, or just what first comes to mind? I don't remember where you said you lived. Do you live in Clarendon? Did you say?
No, I live right in Rutland City.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Okay.
So I love the example, like if you think about like the huge investment that Brandon made in increasing their walkability. Such a big transformation in that town. I think it's and I know we're not talking about sort of aspirations yet, but I think it's a real hole for Rutland City though. Like our downtown proper is walkable for sure because there's sidewalks, that's great. I think we're missing significant bike lanes, and the whole 4-7 corridor is extremely dangerous if you're on a bike or walking. So I'd love, and I don't know how much of that really falls into land use, but I think it's part of the puzzle, because when I talk to people about moving here, I talk about how accessible everything is in terms of like all your recreational activities are like right here. And when people are looking at Rutland City itself, I say it's great because it's just sort of like right here, and you don't even, I don't know if you really could get by without a car, but you could go to a recreational opportunity without a car, but it really depends on where you live. Like I'm in the Northeast section, and there's hardly anywhere to go that I wouldn't have to cross 4 or 7. So if I'm walking or biking, there's just very few corridors where you can safely cross. So I see that as a real sort of aspiration to increase the walkability and bikeability of the whole sort of Rutland City area and Rutland Town, West Rutland, Center Rutland, all the Rutlands really, just name all the Rutlands.
Great. Yeah, I put that in opportunities and aspirations too, because that sounds like what I've got. Okay. Okay, so before I go on to opportunities, which we've already covered a little, is there any more strengths about land use or natural resources that you forgot to say? If not, I'll go on.
I think Rutland County's done a nice job of convincing large landowners to make space for renewable energy solar. So in some areas of the state, it hasn't been quite as embraced, but there's really nice mixed use in Rutland County, I think.
So cool, that's a good one. Okay. Yeah, right now we are leading the state in like solar production, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So. And I also think a strength is, I feel like, I don't know how to say this. I feel like there's a nice balance in Rutland County as a whole of people understanding the need for business expansion and how that's balanced with conserving our large open spaces. I feel like a lot of people are on the right track with that, and it's a Vermont thing completely, I understand. But it feels to me like we're not constantly having to fight against extraneous development. Not constantly. I mean, it happens, but that there are lots of people who, for whatever reason, are comfortable leaving their land in large chunks, and whether that's agricultural land that's still being farmed or forested land that's used for forestry or whatever. It seems like we don't have a lot of people trying to subdivide in ridiculously small portions.
I would say that's true. And I'm wondering if that's a function of just the demand or not, but either way, it's a good thing. Cool. Okay. Great. Well, that was good. All right. All right. We're rocking here. Okay. So next is the opportunities. So how do we make sense of the opportunities in our environment? And then identify opportunities that you could pursue to become more successful, to become more economically resilient, and to support economic development. So this is our opportunities. And I already have, from what you've already said, John, you were talking about like leveraging long existing natural resource assets like the Green Mountain National Forest. Karen, you mentioned the bike lanes and Route 4, Route 7 corridor for walking and biking as an opportunity, also an aspiration. So turning that in the lens of economic development and economically resilient, what other opportunities do we have?
So one of the things, and this is Rutland City, Rutland Town focused, I get super frustrated about corporations from outside, so they're not usually local businesses, coming in from outside, and they don't repurpose a building that's already existing. They take a lot that's empty and they build something new on it. So now we have like a junky old building that could have been either repurposed or knocked down, and use that lot that's already like full of parking lots and, you know, general junk. And then, but instead of doing that, they take land that was not already covered with that stuff and build a building there. Flip side of that coin, though, in my work with the Mint, it was really challenging when we were looking to expand. One of the things we were considering was purchasing a building, and it's really challenging to find suitable light industrial space with loading dock access in the city or town. Not even that's affordable, it just isn't available. It's not that, well, it's there, but it's just really expensive. There just isn't any. But there are bunches of buildings that are sitting not used, but the cost to rehab them, because they're usually like brownfields or some other like significant remediation cost associated with cleaning up that site before you could do anything with it, is a challenge. So I see, you know, a really good Rutland City example is the dress factory. That's actually a kind of cool building. Like the front part of it is kind of cool looking, but it is just like a brownfield nightmare. And I know people, like our RPC is looked at as a redevelopment option because I found the report on it. I know it's really expensive, but I think it's like land that's sitting in the middle of nowhere and just getting vandalized a bunch.
We're actually finishing up the brownfields work on that property now.
Okay.
Which is going to be awesome because, like you say, it could get into some kind of repurposed use. So that's a good one. Yeah, and that's actually art modern kind of architecture from the 30s that you don't see a lot with the fired brick and the rounded edges. So it's like the streamlined modern type architecture. So like that's cool.
It's such a cool vibe to the building, and the inside cleaned up would be beautiful. But it just has like so many challenges. It's also like in a challenging neighborhood. Let's call it that. Yeah. It's a challenging neighborhood there. But it's like prime space, and it feels like if it wasn't empty and looking for people to vandalize it, then you know, maybe that's step one to getting that neighborhood better too. It's like We don't just fill it with abandoned buildings.
Yes. Yes to that.
Yes, right, exactly. So then the other example I was thinking about was not a big fan of the Dollar General. Sorry. Sorry. It's just not my jam. But they did, when they came onto the south side of Rutland, they at least repurposed the old Sterling Saloon that had been sitting empty for a while. So a good example of what I'm talking about, although I wish it wasn't a Dollar General, but at least they didn't build a new building. And then we have like the empty Sterling Saloon plus a new junky looking building that has a Dollar General in it. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of opinions. See,
No, this is great.
I don't have anything to say about land use. Turns out I have a lot to say.
Yeah, I know. See, you are in the right group. John, we have about 8.5 minutes left. So other opportunities that you want to spit out there? If not, I'll go into aspirations, which is kind of like more what do we care deeply about? Like, what do we want to be in the future? What's that vision? Building on the strengths and opportunities.
Yeah, I guess I'll just share one that I think all counties should explore, which is, we have these local emergency management plans where different towns can look to other towns for resources if theirs goes down or they just don't have something, right? So if, one town has a ladder truck and the other town doesn't. And so I'm wondering if there's a way, and again, the how, I don't have an answer, but to do that for farmers. So, if we want to build resiliency into that system, a equipment inventory / sharing clearinghouse where opt in and I don't know, you get credit, something in that world where it isn't catastrophic if something happens because the margins are so small on so many of those operations. And then Karen, to your point about even if there were buildings, there's a lot of smaller organizations that wouldn't be able to afford certain types of buildings. So is there a shared cost buy-in for multiple organizations? But that would have to be organized somewhere, and that might be the economic development corporation. But like I've got 20,000 and you have 40,000 and they have 60,000, and yes, they're putting in more, but together you get the thing that you actually want to use. So another opportunity there.
Well, that's cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, the shared services for the hazard mitigation, like the mutual aid agreements. That's really interesting for agriculture. That's cool.
Definitely. I wonder, so if I can hang something on that, I have no idea how this works again, but I wonder if there's a similar way to set something up for like very small manufacturers, because we've talked about doing it statewide for community maker spaces where like we might invest a lot of money in a tool but we only need it sometimes, but another makerspace could also use it to like elevate someone's business. But then how do we manage there's a lot of logistics to solve for like figuring out how to transport something back and forth and like who keeps track of it and whatever. But I know so many small manufacturers that if one of their tools goes down and it's mission critical for their business, they're kind of stuck. So that's an interesting idea. I have no idea how to make it work, but anyway.
I like that. Okay. So in the next 5 minutes, let's give me in 2.5 minutes, like your big picture aspirations. And maybe we should just do like one word thing. I already have walkability that you said earlier. So hit me with a few more of these, because this timer is just going to kick us back to the next meeting. So like we'll be in mid-sentence and we'll be gone.
I would love to see Rutland County become the innovation hub of Vermont. And I know it's a big lift because Chittenden County has us like they're way far ahead on that, but maybe we're the innovation hub for small business, or maybe we're the innovation hub for something. We have a ton of great resources here in terms of things that we can pull on to maybe we're the entrepreneurship hub. I don't know what we should be, but we should be something like innovation, entrepreneurship wise. I feel like we have lots going on, and we should endeavor to be the hub of that. And then part of that for land use is maybe thinking about how to build out additional incubator type spaces that are easier for small businesses that are growing to get into. So that if I need 10,000 square feet with a loading dock and I just want a 3-month lease that I can renew every 3 months, there's a space that would let me do that.
Okay, incubation hub. All right.
This is where you come to grow your small business. That's our tagline.
Ooh.
Come to Rutland County, grow your small business.
Yeah, and I think what might tie into that, Karen, is that those small businesses have a direct link with all of the various recreation related opportunities that are tied to the natural resources of the area. So, you know, we want, you know, one measure of success would for Rutland County to birth the next Burton or whatever equivalent there is.
Yep.
I think at getting out, what I'm looking at more like the metric side. If Rutland County could get out from underneath the shadow of just Killington, I think that would be awesome as far as like the recreation side of things.
Yep.
You know, it's not a one-hit wonder, or it's not a, you know, a one horse show, but it often gets presented that way. So if that can happen, and I think the biking, you know, the Poultney project is, you know, one really great example of ways to get on the map that way.
Yeah, I think the next big innovation is probably in mountain biking, and I'm hoping it's going to come from Rutland County.
Yeah, I mean, if Rutland County could be the next Burke, basically, I mean, they're already so well established. And the majority of the people that are going to Burke are traveling through Rutland County, probably.
Right, right. We have so many trails, they just need to be connected.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, here's a trail, here's a trail, here's a trail system. We just, like, we have to build the connectors to them and then market it as a single thing. Like here, like Kingdom Trails. Here's your Kingdom Trails, but it's way closer to you.
And that's an opportunity for a business, because, you know, one of my good friends is a trail builder. He's actually built some of the trails down in Poultney, and the number of people in Vermont that have the equipment and expertise to build trails that are going to last is really small. I think there's like 4 people in the state, and there's really maybe 3 that are doing it a lot. So that's an opportunity to maybe as a training ground even to spawn more folks in that field.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Those are 2 good results, like, right? Like number of trail builders, number of connected trail systems. Like those are good ones. All right, 45 seconds. What else do I need to put on here? Because I don't know even how much time I'm going to have to report out, but this is being recorded and I am writing frantically, so it will make it in there. Nothing. Do we all want to sing a song?
Like I said, I think like I said, you want more people to stop in Rutland County instead of continuing north. You don't need to drive to Addison County or Chittenden County to do most of the things that people want to do in the natural environment. Make them stop.
Definitely.
Well, you're not supposed to say that as a planner for Addison County RPC. But I know you have Rutland blood in you, so
I do. Yeah.
I know, so we'll remember that. Bye.
Hopefully you're still there and I didn't bore you to death with the introduction. Just so you know, if you are still there, I again will be recording this session, so I just want to make sure that you're okay with that. Oh, okay, Mike, sounds like a plan. Amy and I will keep the conversation going, and hopefully your phone works. All right. Amy, are you there?
I am. I am cooking dinner for my 3 kids as I'm also on the meeting, so I apologize.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No worries. I applaud you for multitasking. I just had people jump into the meeting. Okay. All right, so we're good. Hopefully Mike's able to participate. If not, Mike, you're welcome to text or type into an email as Amy and I speak, and send responses that way, if you're open to it. So just tried to call in. All right, so Mike, I don't know if I'm going to be able to help, unfortunately. I'm very, very, very sorry. That said, I guess if you aren't bored to death, feel free to hang on, text or email in, and Amy and I can talk things through. All right, awesome. All right, so again, thanks for being here. I guess with the other groups, I'd be asked to some introductions, but this is going to be pretty simple. Again, the purpose of a SOAR is to have a more aspirational and positive approach to what otherwise would be a SWOT. And if this all sounds, a little too vague, feel free to let me know or text. And so we're looking at specifically the topic area of workforce and education in the Rutland region when we're discussing the SOAR, and what could be done or how we should view workforce and education within the sense of economic resilience and economic development. So the SOAR exercise will be factored into the writing of the multi-region comprehensive economic development plan. That'll be updated every 5 years, and that should address changes and actions over both the short term, which could be 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5 years, as well as the longer term, talking 10, 20 years. And I guess this is an easy one actually for Mike to participate in. We're asking participants to place one word in the chat, or I guess, Amy, you could say, that best describes your thoughts on the Rutland regional economy. I might say evolving would be the one word I would choose. So if you have a second to either say or type that out, that'd be great. Perfect. Okay. Noted. All right, so workforce education. What might be a strength? Evolving is a good one. Thank you, I appreciate that. Hey, as you all right, appreciate all the agreement. Well, feel free if a word comes to mind to text it there. Okay, a strength though. So if you were again to look at the regional economy. What might be a strength specific to the Rutland region? And well, I didn't want to prompt too much. I can provide examples, maybe to help with the typing out of responses. So, for example, with the SWAT, strengths in the Rutland region included access to collaborative higher education partners, and also very involved and connected with businesses and organizations in our community. Awesome. Yes. Agreed. So yeah, access to higher education, that connectedness is critical. The presence of CCV and the presence of having a tech center. You did not cut me off. Like, you're not allowed to apologize for anything. I agree that the connectedness is unique. It is great that we have that dialogue. Actually, the connectedness does lend me to jump, and please do jump from topic, whether it's strengths, opportunity, aspiration, or results. But as you text, I would say an aspiration might be to maybe have those connections result in more measurable actions. And that is almost redundant with a result, but I think there are some phenomenal connections that happen, at least with some of my work with workforce. I wish I could lend to more measurable results with the connections that I do make. And that's not a negative comment by any stretch, but sometimes it would be nice to have that SMART context, the specific and measurable components. Strengths.
Yeah, I think for the partnerships too, we have a great, at Killington Ski Resort, a great partnership with Castleton just for the resort and hospitality management program that many other schools are trying to copy, but they can't quite get there just because we're very invested in making sure the program is successful, and it's that collaboration and teamwork that we have with the school that's really what makes it successful. It's not necessarily what's written in a contract, you do this, we do that. Like, we just work together whenever things come up, and make it happen. So that's a really good program at the resort. And
that's wonderful. Is there something specific to that program that you would see as either aspiring to, or could be an additional opportunity?
I think it was great moving to Castleton. That's definitely helped the program continue to grow. I think there's always room for growth and to get more students in the program. I think the graduating class has maybe 20 kids. So in that program, so it's very small. There is a lot of specifics as far as it being resort focused, but really you can take so many of the skills that you learn anywhere. And that's what's unique about it. But.
No, that's wonderful. So I heard a market or an opportunity being to market or grow the program, as you said, create better, increase awareness. No, thank you for that. Yes. Let's see. So, like I said, awareness, I think a lot of good work goes, I couldn't agree, unnoticed. It doesn't make it to data sets. I often hear problems being shared that have already been solved. Yeah. I definitely think reinventing the wheel sometimes is an issue. I heard an aspiration or an opportunity might be documenting work that's that has been done or is being done. Maybe we could call that almost storytelling, documentation, or storytelling.
Yeah, I was gonna say storytelling or just creating different blog posts and sharing what's happening.
Awesome. Mike said, there's an inventory challenge. The growing number of programs and resources can be a challenge to keep track of, especially for the business owner trying to evaluate. Oh yeah, no, there's information saturation for sure. So it's hard to know what to capitalize on. So maybe an opportunity in there, a navigator would be helpful for businesses. You ain't lying. An opportunity to make info and resources easier to use and navigate for businesses. I'm actually going to put business navigator. Okay, that's wonderful. Some opportunities just help or to let you know that we had identified in advance. It's diversity training. Maybe like you could also call it maybe some awareness building. Something near and dear to my heart is a veteran talent and employer pipeline. So maybe have a clearer channel for what resources do exist in the region for veterans and how they can directly connect with both academia, but also employers or community. So I think there's, from our experience as a veteran household, pretty severe disconnect. Yes, couldn't agree with you more, Mike, that they're a valuable resource and they definitely have some unique challenges. I'm just holding to let Mike finish typing before I throw out the next one. Okay, sounds good. The other thing was welcoming immigrant populations, the talent and skills that come with them as an opportunity. Historically, I think there have been some issues in the Rutland region, or maybe specific to the city, but an opportunity to be more proactively welcoming might behoove the region and the state, for that matter. So if there are any thoughts on those, or if those inspire any other thoughts. I
think
also, go ahead.
Child care is always one.
Yes.
For families, and affordable child care with the hours that you need.
Yeah.
Like, I know my mom was the director of a child care center in New Jersey, and they would open at 6:30 to 6:30. Good luck finding any place that opens before 8 o'clock around here for child care.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yes. I couldn't agree with you more. So no, I put increased access to and affordable childcare. Yeah. Hours of operation definitely, I think, is like I'm just going to put that increased hours of operation in general. Are there legal reasons for childcare hours? That's a good question. So I will have to look that up. Don't think so. Legal issues around hours of operation. I will look into that and get back to you. Thank you for bringing that up, Mike. So we do have some strengths, opportunities, and aspirations. Discussing all of that, though, I think Vermont Talent Pipeline made some headway on this front when working with the nursing shore. Okay. So an opportunity, again, there is to channel the work that's been done by others. All right, so I want to say CVTPM. All right, will do. Thank you for that. How would we know when we succeed? So with any of these points that we've discussed, what could be a tangible outcome? Or how do we know when we're there? And it could be, you know, in regards to the Killington-Castleton University partnership. Is that when you have a cohort of 100 graduating students? Is that a result, or is it the number of students that you directly hire? I guess from the veteran point of view, when you have an identifiable resource that veterans easily tap into. From an economic perspective, can we measure payroll in the region? Yeah, actually, I think we can. I would have to get that though. So assuming we can measure payroll, employment, you're right, can definitely be a misleading number, especially when people are overemployed but underpaid. So when we have an increase in payroll, Mike, that would be the angle? All right, so I'll get back to that. I'm thinking if we're trying to measure economic impact of workforce development, payroll should help us determine if wages. Okay. So, all right, so the result might be payroll data shows increase in wages, indoor employment. You don't need to apologize. No, it's a really, really great point. Region payroll divided by number of employees. Gotcha. It's also a good question though, so I'll need to get back to you on data. Yeah, results is a hard one really to throw out there. Which is why I don't have a whole lot of examples to offer into the conversation. But you're right, I think payroll data might be a good way to cross the spectrum in terms of the various aspects of employment or unemployment. Could also then say maybe increased number of childcare facilities.
And maybe they've already accomplished it, but I think part of the reason is the fees involved with childcare, so making it more affordable because people are deciding to just not go to work because their whole paycheck goes to childcare. But
Yeah.
I know they have been making a lot of efforts on that, so that might already be starting to get accomplished.
And affordability. Yeah, I know those are great points. Do you feel that you are, I guess a question to both of you, are you almost overly involved, like tapped out in terms of the number of groups or regional organizations that you're involved in? And do you feel like your organizations get, I guess, bang for buck in terms of your time invested in all these organizations? Maybe more direct benefits of your community engagement for either yourself personally or work be beneficial?
I think there are a lot of different groups, and sometimes it's tough to figure out which one is doing which and which one is overlapping with others. I know at the resort we have some team members are on quite a few more community organizations, and then because we have a large staff, we're able to divide and conquer and say, okay, you're going to be on this one, you're going to be on this one, but you're going to be on that one.
Yeah. Actually, maybe it's more of an aspiration, clear delineation between regional organizations.
Yes.
That's awesome. And just so you know, we have 4 minutes left, so the pain won't last too much longer. I am incredibly grateful for you guys sticking through all of this. Don't look at the typos. You're typing really fast, Mike, and don't worry about it. I'm grateful that you're still here because this would have been too frustrating for most. But so if we were to Rutland resilient, okay. Is resilience going to be the defining word or the result, Mike? Just for tonight, Rutland resilience. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, point made. So looking at some of the notes I took down from the conversation, childcare is definitely a resounding topic, but also I'd say that the emphasis on all the resources that are in the region in terms of education and workforce, but maybe more aspiring to measurable results from all the systems and organizations that are in place, as well as clear delineations. I think those particular points would help results in the sense of the effectiveness of organizations and employment, or I guess then the tertiary being payroll data and what that shows for employment or wages. But what I hear is that you both agree there's a lot going on, and maybe regionally it could be a little bit more strategic. Hopefully we get that from this plan, part of that too, but it's a good conversation to keep having. And just so you know, in probably about a minute, I'm gonna leave this group to go call everyone else back into the main room. And that's what we'll do a wrap up. If you are jaded or you're typed out, just so you know, the wrap up will also be sent out via email. In addition to any other documentation that we have available. So the SWOT to date, but that is still a living and evolving document, as well as the filled out SOAR. So we'll be combining everyone's feedback in their individual breakout rooms and getting that all combined into the document and sending that out. So there'll be updates probably early next week resulting from all the conversations. So just in case, thank you, Mike. Just in case I don't see you in the main room, I wanted to thank you again very much for your time and involvement. If you have any thoughts after this, please feel free to reach out. Again, we're working on this for the next year, so there's time. Email or phone call, would love to hear from you. Amy, hope dinner's going well. Mike, thank you for your patience. I'm going to leave this room and maybe see you later. So thank you. Okay, so welcome back into the main room. Hopefully you had robust conversations. You can find more information available online at westcentralvermont.org. We'll also be sending you an email with meeting follow-up information. So there's not time today to go over everything that was discussed, but we will be synthesizing feedback, putting it together and sending it back out to you. But online, we'll also be posting information, so you can find it there. In addition to future meeting information, you can also subscribe for future news and updates and regional points of contact if you don't have those already. We'll be doing a SOAR by industry sector come late August, September, and we'll be in touch soon with those dates. And again, expect to see a draft CEDS outreach winter, early spring 2022. Again, thank you for your time and participation this evening. We're very grateful and look forward to being in contact. Please feel free to reach out with any additional thoughts you might have on anything that was discussed. We welcome and greatly appreciate any feedback. Thank you and have a good evening.